All right, so I'm recording to my computer.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Barry.
Actually, Jack is joining us. I let him know about this meeting and yeah, just giving us an introduction. So where are you, Sam? Oh, he's gone. Okay, no problem.
He's at the airport, I presume.
Yeah,
Dropping off.
probably.
I'm at the airport. I'm at a check-in lounge. Okay, so I'm not going to be participating, but I just made two of you guys co-hosts.
Thank you.
Where are you headed
Okay.
to? Oh, maybe.
He may not hear, he may not be following us. That's
I think
okay.
he went off. All right. Yeah,
Yeah,
if he said, I don't remember. But
yeah. So look at this communication bandwidth to get to Sam and keep his attention. Yeah, that we have obstacles. And I learned in college about a model: sender, message, channel, and response for any communication. So you have recipient is the other one. So yeah, you have a message in the channel, and there could be interference on any of those. The sender's mind, the message could be garbled, not clear, the channel could be noisy, and the recipient could have issues not hearing, whatever.
that's not an acronym, though, is it?
SMCR.
Well, yeah, but it's not a word.
It's not a word, but it's probably out there in the literature somewhere. So how do we communicate among ourselves and the rest of the world? Well, who cares?
Erratically. The answer is
Yeah.
erratically.
Yeah, so like Barry and I are trying asynchronously to collaborate on our ideas. So like yesterday I had a burst of insight and put it all into workflowy for whoever wants to look at it in the future. So another thing on my mind is, yeah, how do we create these paths for future generations to follow and to take up where we left off?
You put it in the language model.
Oh yeah.
You encode it and decode it.
Okay, but is there going to be a problem of surfacing information from language models if they're all like indexing corporate sites?
I think you have to be friends with the CEO of Perplexity, and then
Hmm.
you're all set.
Ah,
Or Claude.
yep. Now, so like the Internet Archive with Brewster Kahle is supposed to be that place for anybody. Put up your Grateful Dead tapes or whatever, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like right now is the biggest knowledge repository time in the history of compute.
I think it's important at this time to start getting anything that was in other media into digital form and putting it somewhere so people could find it in the future. It
Yeah,
could
Well,
be it
there
could be
is one
buried and buried.
there
Yeah,
is
go
one
ahead.
other website that you can save, at least to save the URL, but maybe not the content. But now I don't remember.
Okay, but URLs go dead. And I was exploring something I did in 2009 where I posted on the Internet Archive. And then in that post, I had a link. Well, actually, it was audio content which mentioned a link. And then I was able to use the Internet Archive to go back to that old link as it was in 2009,
Yeah,
which is pretty cool that Internet Archive lets you do that
yeah.
because that link is dead, you know? And then from that, it was a simple static HTML web page, and it had links that were saved at that time to other pages on that site. So I do have a pretty good reconstruction to see what I was thinking in 2009.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. A lot of old information does eventually evaporate, to use the
Yep.
metaphor.
Yep. Now, see, like I know Jack has written a book collecting articles on topic maps, and he told me about that. I started looking at it, and so yeah, that's a transfer. So I know that idea now in my head, and it takes effort for me to really think about the concept and how I'd want to apply it. I mean, there are projects that I see applications for that, and they know about that. They were connected with Michelle. I forget the last name, but what's his name?
Bizunski.
What what's the name?
Bizunski.
Yeah, Bazinski. Yes. So that they were using his networker project for a while. They now switched to Coda, the online database. So because they have a very complicated in the structure for tracking music. Yeah. Yeah. All right, well, we'll leave it open if anyone wants to jump in and talk.
I
So
was just curious.
I
Oh, go
think
ahead.
for Jack's
Go
benefit,
ahead, Jack.
I will put Joshua's full name in his.
Ah, cool.
Thank you, Barry. I appreciate that. Yeah,
You
I
have
got rid of my Zoom account a while back.
So you're an anonymous Zoomer.
Yeah. Normally we don't
Yeah.
bother. We all know who Joshua is, but for a
Mhm.
first timer, you might not learn Joshua's name off the
you
top of
you
your
can you can keep your name in your Zoom app
He
and
knows that,
it's still there.
but he
Right.
doesn't. He doesn't. A lot of
But
people don't. They take 2 or 3 years to think about permanently changing
And
recording.
then does it sync across your iPad? Should Zoom
No,
on that?
it only saves on the local Zoom app.
Right. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So see, that's why people tried to get everything into the cloud so you could have that easy sync of everything. But I find that web apps and cloud apps, if you're not running native, you lose the speed.
Yeah.
That's what I'm finding, even at work. Like we have to go to Microsoft Fabric, their website to do things, even though I could code it, but I'm learning. So it's frustrating to me because the previous product is on a server and it's fast. So that's a frustration I'm dealing with at work. Personally, I'm also dealing with some frustration this weekend. A good friend is having a manic episode. It's not Stacy, but another friend. And the way that impacts me, I made contact with a friend of his who can get some local help, but just knowing that it gets me shaken up a bit, and I'm fine. But I could see that possible tendency in myself, even though I've never been diagnosed as bipolar. A lot of geniuses have that possibility. So I'm fine, but still concerned.
Anxiety goes with being an information processing entity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you look at historical figures, a lot of them had those tendencies.
Well, if you're on the hook to solve hard problems, and the problem is, well, say life or death, but say crisis, and you're not
Mhm.
solving it, then you have anxiety. Everybody figures, well,
Yeah, we have to accept our
Eric's the
limitations.
expert on this. If he can't solve it, we're in deep front.
Yeah, and that's a pattern in my life because I'm becoming an expert in so many different things. The older people depend on me to help with technology. My dad, I'm going to see him. He need his help with his iPad. Okay,
Doing everybody else's thinking for them. It's an unrealistic high level goal.
Right, but we can't expect a 93-year-old to be fluent with an iPad. Just the few things. So when it changes, forget it.
I already appreciate that I'm losing my faculties at solving the more challenging problems, or ones that involve a lot of memory, where my memory has faded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm having memory farts too. Yeah, but
Joshua is requesting you to turn on the AI companion.
Yeah, okay. Meeting questions is on. Got it. Got it. Okay, but it will only take from this point forward, right? It won't go back. Yeah, so
But it is on now, right?
I think it is. Yeah, you could do an AI catch me up. Yeah.
Okay.
Not much has happened. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it cannot go backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's fine. So what do we want to talk about today?
First of all, is Josh sitting in a geodesic dome?
Looks like it.
It's outside under a sunroof, sun shield.
Umbrella.
It is a geodesic version 1. Yep.
He gets a lot of sun there in California. A lot of sun.
Especially this time of year.
Right.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even though it's early morning, the sun is already over the hill. So
Josh, where are you living? Where do you live?
I'm just north of Los Angeles in the Los Padres National Forest.
Okay, I'm just south of Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
San Diego?
Near Orange County?
Well, actually, I'm at the southern tip of Riverside County, the
Oh,
inland,
okay.
a
I know exactly where you're at.
little town called Temecula.
I
Never
know
heard of it.
Temecula.
Never heard of it.
Well, Temecula is the Valley of the Sun. It's
Hmm.
there's a lot of native tribes in this area, and one of them, the Pachanga tribe, runs a truly awesome casino that actually makes Topanga kind of a world destination because they host shows that people come from all over the world to see.
I've heard of Topanga Canyon. That's the same name, right?
No, Topanga Canyon is over in it's in the mountains between the San Fernando Valley and the Los Angeles or Santa Monica Basin.
Okay, but
Same
sounds
name, different location.
okay.
There's Topanga, and then there's Topanga Canyon.
Well,
Okay.
I'm in Temecula.
Yeah,
Temecula, Topanga. Okay.
there's sort of like a coastal California, and then there's an inland California, and it's
Right.
like two separate worlds. There's like Republicans and Democrats.
Never the twain
That's
shall
pretty much
agree.
how it is. Yes.
Never the twain
Yeah,
shall collaborate.
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
I'm in a very dark pink area.
Hmm.
yeah. It's interesting. I didn't even know there's also a giant man-made lake outside of Los Angeles that they tried to engineer and messed up and turned it all salt. It's the Salton Sea, and it
That was
all
a
bunch of dead
man.
fish.
That's a man-made lake?
So I didn't know that it was man-made.
Yeah,
Because it's
it's
sitting
man-made.
right on the San Andreas Fault, and it was my understanding that it's actually the remnants of the inland sea.
It is, and I'm saying they tried to engineer it and fix it, and they screwed up, and now
Oh,
it's
well,
just
they
a dead
did.
sea.
They did, in
Yeah,
fact. What happened was is they sold the water rights to it to San Diego, who sucked it dry, and so it became
there
very.
you go. Yep.
Now, believe it or not, they've discovered that it's laden with what's that stuff we need for our batteries?
Lithium?
Lithium.
Really?
Yep.
There's a gigantic lithium plant getting ready to be built there.
Yeah, it's a such a weird, different uh how can I say, when you go out there, it's like being in another world. It doesn't feel like where you live, Jack, and it doesn't feel like the coast. It's
Oh,
a whole nother
that's
world.
yeah, it's about a 45-minute drive for me. And when I was a kid, in the 1950s, my parents took us on a drive and we drove down there, and it was a very full lake, and it had all sorts of resorts and so on and so forth along the edges of it. Today you go, it's basically just old rundown trailer parks.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And there's another place just past that where I forgot what they call it, but it's basically like Mad Max in real life. It's a lot of people that just left society and want to live out in the desert in the
Yes.
middle of
Yeah.
nowhere.
And there's plenty of those actually, but yes.
Yeah. There's a it's like a whole nother country inside of a country
Yeah.
that
So you see the pattern of exploiting natural resources. Like a lot of countries in Africa were exploited, and it ruined the people, the land of the people who lived there. And yeah, so and there was the California gold rush initially, which brought everybody out there. But how do we go forward in the future now?
Erratically. We go forward erratically. It's the word of the
well
day. Erratic is the word of the day.
Uh-huh. Yep.
yeah. I'm trying to remember the name of the company, but it was an ex SpaceX employee. I watched an interview that's starting an engineering company to build small nuclear plants. With everything he learned from SpaceX and the government, he learned how to make small nuclear reactors. So that seems like that's the future of energy moving forward, is a plethora of small nuclear reactors. Looks
And
like
how and how
Well,
does
yeah,
Biden feel
yeah, the
about
ones on the
that?
submarines and the
Yeah,
aircraft carriers are relatively small because
yep,
those are the size of
right.
a small city in terms of energy consumption.
yeah, which I think will change the dynamics of a lot of different properties in many places.
Although I imagine those are relatively expensive nuclear reactors. If they're on aircraft carriers and submarines, they're not cheap. They're not economical, but they're needed for submarines and aircraft carriers because you don't have high tension lines coming in to
Yeah,
the ocean.
containment is an issue.
Yeah. So if they ever got to be cheap enough, then yeah. Or maybe if you're out in the boonies where you don't have access to a grid.
Remember the
Yeah,
Back to the Future movie? You get a home energy fusion reactor. You pour your beer into it, and
Your
that's
beer.
yeah.
yeah. I was just looking up the new. They're about $300 to $400 bio. What I don't know what they call them, but you put all your food waste into these little devices that sit on your counter, and they heat up and cool down and turn into the soil, the composting soil. So they're little
Yeah,
composting machines that sit on your right now they're expensive, but I can see those going down to 50, $60.
yeah. Actually, that's very important. I heard a talk by Klaus Major and about the soil renewal, and there should be compost laws in every state for food waste.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, there's so many. I feel like technology could get us out of so many holes if we, had stipends from the government to build these manufacturing companies that could build these, you know, like imagine if there were 20 nuclear reactor companies all competing for the cheapest and
Yep.
best nuclear reactor, it would happen.
Yeah. Now I'm in Pennsylvania, which has the history of 3 Mile Island. I watched a documentary about that, and just
Yeah,
seeing how things were handled back then, it's
yeah.
mind-opening.
Yeah, well, we have history of putting really poisonous paint on watch faces to make them glow in the dark, but that doesn't
Yes.
mean that doesn't mean the Apple Watch company shouldn't be created.
Yeah, that's the thing. How do we learn from history and go forward? And
Yeah,
Radically,
and
that's how we learn from history.
erratically. I love it.
yeah. Well, a lot of those things. When was 3 Mile Island actually first engineered? Meaning the very first plans to build it. What year was that? That was probably in the 50s.
Maybe 60s, 70s. I don't remember.
I
Yeah,
think
it's around that time.
it was
It
in the either late
it
70s or
operated in
early
the
80s.
70s. Yeah,
Yeah, but to build it, they must have built it back in the early 60s.
probably. Yeah.
So I'm saying the technology of the early 60s compared to the 1980s was very different. The 20-year span of what we
Yeah,
learned.
but you see that not seeing the problem right away, not having the feedback of what's really wrong, that's a software thing of safety engineering these days, which is very
Yeah.
important, especially AI. Yeah, so how's a company to anticipate that their AI is going to become a Nazi propaganda tool or whatever, you know?
Well, what was that acronym you said in the beginning of the conversation about the messages being sent
Yeah,
and received?
SMCR, sender,
Yeah.
message, channel, and recipient.
Yeah. I worked in quality control for a little bit at a manufacturing plant, and the warehouses with good quality control never had any problems when they had good quality control. So,
Yep. Yeah, and Toyota had that thing where any employee could stop the production line for any problem, and
mhm,
they'd fix it right away. And that model was evolved into our current DevOps movement for software.
nice.
Because that was from The Goal by Eliyahu Goldratt, who brought it in, and then Gene Kim, who now does this annual State of DevOps report. He was inspired by those two ideas, and he wrote the Phoenix Project, which is a book that every software engineer should read.
Mm.
About, yeah.
So it's
And then,
encouraging whistleblowing.
well, it's encouraging new ways of working that are where you have safety nets and
Yeah.
where you're doing things in short sprints, you're agile. Yeah.
Yeah, and everyone's working together. I'm saying if someone stops the line and blows that whistle, "Boop, wait, stop," then they're
Yeah,
not going to get in trouble for that. They're going to get praised for that if it actually fixes the problem.
yeah, the ideal is that you shouldn't be able to compile the code if there's a bug that's detected by tests, which are automated.
NASA
Yep.
had some issues where people tried to blow the whistle and it wasn't heard. Several
Yeah,
occasions.
that was the Space Shuttle Challenger.
That was the big one. There was more than one. That was the biggie.
Oh yeah, of course, there's been throughout the history. Yeah, that's how corporations operated, and these old models have to change for the.
Yeah.
Prudence. We get competition tends to push down prudence. You take risks where it wouldn't be prudent to take them in hindsight.
Yep.
Well, if they do end up getting these, I was just listening to the CEO of Perplexity talk about what his idea for the future of the company is. It was on a podcast with Lex Friedman,
Okay,
and
thanks.
it was really interesting to listen to his view of Perplexity versus Google versus the other large language model companies, and the idea that the system can actually look and see the multimodal operation of a language model to accurately predict when there is the quality control that could fix that problem. If you had enough cameras on the line that were assessing what's happening,
And probably
you don't need the people.
in smaller companies, you could probably do that and build a learning environment from your mistakes, assuming it's all documented. There's no shame in pointing out a problem because
Well, it's
for
a computer, so it doesn't have shame unless you program it to have shame.
you give it Data's emotion chip from Star
Yeah.
Trek.
But they can't have chagrin. AIs can have chagrin.
Hmm.
I've pointed out faulty reasoning, and the AI, oh, you're right, and it sort of expressed some sense of chagrin that it had provided falsifiable information.
I was watching a video with Neil deGrasse Tyson pointing out peer reviewing a paper from some fringe. I forget
Terrence
the name.
Howard.
Yes, that's the
Yeah,
one.
I watched that.
Yep. So he's explaining the purpose of peer review is just to be objective, that there is no evidence to support where you're going. And therefore, I'm not going to read the rest of the 35 pages you wrote or something.
No, he read the whole thing.
He did, yeah, right. But I don't know if he did more detailed comments.
Probably looking for more errors.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
so yeah, that's in a
multiple
DKR.
reasons to falsify something is better than just one reason, which can sort of be hand waved away.
But if he's a popular guy on YouTube, he'll get followers, he'll get money, regardless of what he says, you know.
I have a question for you guys, especially being computer scientists and scientists, is if you were to do a peer review, but you started the beginning of it saying nothing in this paper is true, nothing has any validity,
Right.
but review it for just the ideas alone, not for the factual. Is there any kind of, have you ever heard of that in the science process?
It would be good for a science fiction plot.
That's what I'm saying. Science fiction.
Make a great science fiction plot. It's perfectly plausible. It's not reducible to practice, but you don't have to do it in science fiction. It just has to be interesting story.
That's what I'm saying. Fiction papers.
Yeah.
So they'd say at the top, this is fiction.
Right. Yeah. This would make a great plot for a sci-fi story.
So there's a Turing test there. Yeah. That's interesting. What's the value in that? Like, are there, say it's just
well,
totally
the value
AI...
is most of our technology comes from science fiction.
You're right. I know that Star Trek has explored many concepts, and it would be great to pay attention to what's in those series as we go forward. Yeah, because really also the human relationships are explored. A command and control structure versus the newer Star Treks. It's more collaborative and more modern types of management.
Yeah, if it's just an engineering constraint, that can be overcome. If it's a math logical constraint or a laws of nature constraint, then you got to, much less likely that it can be overcome.
Well, it could be overcome 300 years from now when we understand more of how the math, like, in other words, the math of today is probably not the math of tomorrow.
Yeah, what you have to watch out for is things like infinite energy requirements and, you know, things that exceed the finite capacity of the universe to do what it does.
But what if the laws of thermodynamics change 300 years from now?
It's their
Well,
problem.
right now they're only statistical. So if you can get, more detailed models, I mean, the whole thing about the ideal gas law is that it's only statistical. Temperature is just the mean kinetic
Mhm.
energy, but you don't know anything. Well, you know something about the distribution. You can know the shape of the distribution, and including the mean and the variance, and maybe another parameter. But beyond that, the individual particles are on kind of individually unknown.
That's the quantum level, and we have quantum computers trying to figure that out.
On
But
the other hand,
still, yeah,
tunneling is about, what can an extreme particle do? It can tunnel through a
yeah,
barrier because of the tails of the distribution. So yeah,
yeah. See, these
so
physics,
learning more about the tails tells you more about
yeah.
tunneling.
So
Yeah.
over time, we get better models of reality.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, the practical applications of those models is another story. Now, what I want to ask Jack is, from a topic map perspective, what would a dynamic knowledge repository look like, where, say, we wanted to collect both sides of the story or both sides of a physics, or just something to produce for the future?
So the whole point of topic mapping is so there's this thing that the new popular name that Google invented called a knowledge graph,
Mm-hmm.
which technically, if you go into the architecture, is nothing but a concept map.
Okay.
A concept map is two nodes connected by a labeled edge.
Right.
In graphs, they call it vertices and edges.
Right.
And so there's a lot of math behind what goes on in graphs, and that's what makes them powerful. A topic map goes a step further, and it posits. Now, the original topic maps didn't do this, but the new ones do. It says that everything in a graph is a topic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why would I say that?
The
First,
relationships. Yeah.
the action is in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships have stories.
Mhm.
And you need to be able to connect the relationship to the story.
Yeah, the whole provenance is
If
needed.
it's a labeled arc, there's no connection.
Right.
Now there is a concept map that came out of a university in Florida. It's not open source, but it's free. I think it's called CNET, which does allow you to make edges touch edges. Which
Relationship between
By
relationships.
analogies, that this edge is analogous to that edge.
Okay, well, so then there are these things called coherence relations.
Yeah.
This is similar to that. This disagrees with that, and so on and so forth. But what is it? It's the relationship. It's the totality of the triple: subject, predicate, object.
Yeah.
That totality is what you're connecting to another totality. And topic maps let you do that automatically. That's how I build them.
Mhm.
So now in 2008, we held the first conference on knowledge federation in Dubrovnik, Croatia.
Mm.
And
Is that before RDF or after RDF?
no, topic maps came along at actually, in truth, Steve Newcomb had invented topic maps, the technology behind topic maps, about exactly the same time RDF was invented.
Right. Okay, what I heard is that RDF is more about mechanized networks, and topic maps is more about human networks.
Well, I
more,
wouldn't,
no.
that's not a dichotomy I see.
Okay.
RDF is, when you say mechanizing, what you're really saying is RDF is the electronic representation of a subject, predicate, and object, and it's very convenient.
Hmm.
The only problem is that RDF didn't go the next step, which was to say it is its own subject. All it is the name of a relation type.
Just a name, right?
Yeah, and so in fact, RDF, it's the URI of that relation type.
Right. Now,
Okay.
could you transclude that relationship somewhere else and make it a topic?
Well, so the technical term for that is you reify it.
Reify. Okay.
And so now what you've done is you've created this whole other topic
Mhm.
that is the totality of that relationship. Well, that topic maps already do that.
Okay, you had that in XML, right?
Well, we originally did XML, but now we're doing JSON. But
Right.
that's
Yeah, that's
that's
just technical. Mhm.
yes, in fact, well, all right. Topic maps were originally okay. Steve Newcomb was a professor of music at in Florida, University of Florida, or Florida, Central Florida, whatever.
Yep.
And he'd heard about GML, General Markup Language, that was being invented at IBM. So he goes off and starts talking to the IBM people. He says, how do I represent chord progressions in music?
Right.
And so they worked with him. And by that time, GML had progressed to something called SGML.
Right.
And it's a very, very complex markup language. Really, it's most mortals don't know anything about it. So just to jump ahead, HTML is a child of SGML.
Right.
XML is a child of SGML.
Okay.
So Newcomb was at a conference on how do we index the GNU documentation. Linux was coming out and there was
Sure.
man pages. Well, how do we index them?
Does everybody know what GNU means?
Yeah. GNU is not
GNU's
Linux.
right. I love those recursive acronyms. Yeah, go
Right.
ahead.
And O'Reilly was there, Newcomb was there, a bunch of people were there, and Newcomb said, wait a minute. I created a language called High Time.
Yep.
And High Time is an SGML dialect. This was Newcomb did this.
Yep. And it was used on the space shuttle, right?
Well,
High Time.
believe it or not, the 777 from Boeing.
Yeah. Oh, the 777. Yeah.
Was the first airplane to be designed entirely in a computer on High Time.
Fascinating. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole sequencing of events coming together. Yep.
That's correct. And so he said, let's put the index of the back of a book in High Time. And that was the first topic map.
Okay.
And it's now known as High TM. And it's the one that became a what do you call it, standard?
ISO.
It's an ISO 13250.
Nice.
And so what happened is that when it became an ISO standard, it meant that it was private and secret and you had to pay and blah, blah,
Yep.
blah. He rebelled. So in the year 2000, he was at there was an XML conference in San Jose, and I happened to be there, and there was a little sign in a walkway that said topic maps with an arrow. The topic maps, what the hell's this? So I walked in there, and here was Newcomb and a bunch of other people, and they were going to transliterate the SGML high TM to XML topic maps, which we then called XTM. So I
Right.
became on, I was on the standards committee for that. We did the translations. But it was the old topics, associations, and occurrences model, TAO, T-A-O. Steve
Okay.
Harper did a paper called The Tao of Topic Maps. It's a very good paper. It's worth reading. Um, but at the end, when we finally had finished the XTM document, Newcomb said, "This is wrong." So he said, I'm going to make the topic maps reference model.
Mhm.
Now, XTM, the topic maps data model, was made so many ontological commitments, it really wrapped you into a little ball.
Yep. Just want to mention what Sam and I are looking at is called Datomic, Datomic, and
Okay, well, datomic is it's a logic language. What I'm blocking everything in my mind right now. It's data log.
yeah, data log. It has
Data,
the facts with the indexed
that's
yeah,
correct.
transactions and timestamps.
Well, so data log is kind of a degenerate prologue.
Hmm.
It's a weaker prologue, but it's still extraordinarily powerful.
Yeah.
The and Datomic is not open source, but they finally made the entire app free.
Right.
You can download Datomic for
We
free,
could learn it. Yeah.
and you can learn it and you can use it, but
Mhm.
you really can't get inside of it and mutate it, and who knows what happens if they stop making it and blah blah blah. I don't know.
Right. But theoretically, you could use Clojure to build whatever you want, interfacing with
Well, that
Datomic.
was the point. Datomic was created by Rich Hickey, who invented Clojure,
Right.
and um, so there's another data log program called XTDB, which is not Datomic, but it's fully open source, and I think it's Apache license and so on and so forth. That's even more powerful than Datomic.
Okay. So what's the acronym XTDB mean?
I don't have any idea.
Okay, because I was thinking, is it XML topic map
No, no, no,
database?
no, no,
No,
no.
no, it's okay, so it's not.
Its original brand was something really weird, and they just renamed it all of a sudden to XDDB.
Yeah, see, that's where we need provenance of names. We need to
Well,
know the relationship
whatever.
when the name changed. Yeah, right.
So what Newcomb said is, I'm going to remove all of these ontological commitments from topic maps.
Okay,
So there are really only two objects which are ontological commitments. One is the topic map itself,
right.
and it's defined as a container of topics.
Okay,
And then there is those containers called topics. They're called subject proxies,
okay,
because a topic is defined as a proxy for a subject out there.
proxy. Yep.
Okay, and so then there are a couple of other commitments made. Number one, you have to, when you make a topic map, you have to declare um, publicly what is going on in your topic in topic map in terms of subject identity.
Mhm.
What are the key value pairs, property values, that you use to identify a topic?
So is that like a property graph? Like
It
it?
is, in fact, is a property graph. That's the
Okay,
point.
right.
Okay. And so you have to declare what you do. Any other properties, you can do whatever you want. But if this is a subject ABC, how are you identifying it? And what are the rules you use to test the identity?
Yeah, and that's a tricky thing. And also just you get in the weeds with what's the name of each property, how do you agree on standards
Well,
and all that.
so this is the point. You have to publish it. Um, you
Like
ha
a,
you have to publish it.
uh-huh,
And so what happens is there are these things called topic map applications.
okay,
In other words, the subject identity properties for people are different than for airplanes or rivers
right.
or geophysical things or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Let's take,
you have these applications, and each has its own published specification. So now
okay,
an actual subject map is really a collection of topic map applications.
okay, applications that
Yeah,
communicate via that published protocol. Is that that,
Um,
or does that protocol get extended over time as new fields are discovered or?
well, so the point of publishing how you identify subjects in your topic map
Right.
is so that somebody else can come and take your topics and merge them into their topic map.
Okay.
So they have
So,
to invent the mappings.
right. So it's like a data dictionary.
It is a data dictionary.
Okay.
And I'm trying to forget what every map on the planet has a little box that explains things. What's that called?
The key,
No,
the legend, right?
legend. Yes. So you have to do this legend of
Right. Yeah.
um,
Blue is water. Yeah. Right.
yeah, and so um, we in 2008 we had the first. Our last one was 2016, and they went every other year in Dubrovnik. And the objective was we began to realize that topic maps were the way to federate all manner of things.
Wow.
Now, let me give you a closer example. I worked at SRI and in the AI lab.
Hmm.
In the last DARPA-funded Engelbardian project, it was called CALO.
How do you spell that?
CALO, CALO,
Okay.
cognitive assistant that learns and organizes.
Nice.
It was the military wanted us to build something that basically armies could use to track all kinds of things going on in their universe.
Right.
But they said, we don't want you to do the army stuff. Just make it work in offices,
Okay.
factories. So it would do things like read your email and discover whether this was a request for a meeting. And then if so, it would check your calendar and it would, it did all these kinds of things and did a
Yep.
lot more. And it was controlled by an ontology.
Okay.
The theory being that if all Kalos were on the same ontology, they spoke the same language.
Okay.
But I went to them and I said, that ontology says that an email is a temporal abstraction. Now, how many secretaries know that?
Temporal abstraction. Okay.
And so they let me wrap the ontology with a topic map, and people could customize how it spoke to them through the
Mhm.
topic map, as long as it was mapped to the ontology.
Okay.
So it was federating line workers with an academic ontology. That's one example.
Hmm.
Now I'm going to give you another Engelbardian example. Um, I did a PhD project at Open University that this was during the aughts. I started
Yeah.
the project around 2006 and 2005, 2006. And they were getting I came in, they invited me to come over and talk to them about it. And this is at Milton Keynes in the UK. You have thousands of online conversations about climate change.
Yep.
And you have people in these conversations making statements like A causes B, but others will say B is caused by A.
Mhm.
Or they'll use a synonym for B, XYZ is caused by A.
Right.
And in other words, the signal to noise ratio of such a conversation is really high.
Mhm.
And I said, I can clean that up with a topic map.
Mm.
And so that's what I did. I wrote I wrote a simulator for a program that would read 690 IBIS claims. These are called structured conversation claims about climate change. And I typed all 690 of those claims into the computer and turned my program loose on it. And it came back and it said, here are two of the 690 that say the same thing. I looked at them and I was stunned. They were both basically about cow farts.
Yeah. Makes sense. So yeah, if you could map different terms for cow farts to
Exactly, that was the point. And the topic map was able to figure out what the synonyms were. And I recognized that there was this passive versus active sentence construct. So I
Okay.
wrote an algorithm that says, and I gave it a predefined list of verbs which predicates phrases which were passive and what the active version was. And then it had an algorithm for when you have to swap the subject for the object, and
Right.
then you normalize all the synonyms. And it
Mhm.
found these two, and I was utterly stunned. This worked.
Yeah, that's amazing. Just to relate it to something from my experience, back in the year 2000, we were looking at COBOL programs for a few years, and we had a tool called Revolve, which attempted to infer from your data, your source code, where are you possibly creating a year 2000 problem by movement of fields and
That was the
variables.
Y2K problem. Yes.
Right. But to approach it, yeah, if you load all your source code into this tool, it was using things like chaining, logical inference to get to possible candidates for review. So is there any like I'm seeing that maybe there's some relationship between those concepts of chaining from one to another and this work with topic maps.
Well, so now you're into the domain. There's an interesting domain known as literature-based discovery.
Mhm.
There's the canonical story is a research librarian was reading some documents about Raynaud's syndrome.
Mhm.
Raynaud's syndrome, if you've ever had it, you'll know it immediately. Your fingers will turn white and they start burning. Fingertips.
Ouch.
And what it is it's a vascular constriction, spasm.
Mhm.
And so they had discovered that the commonality of therapeutic interventions was basically blood thinners. And so he was reading that, and then he was reading another body of literature about fish oil. And the
Mhm.
fish oil people knew that fish oil was a blood thinner.
Wow.
And so he did an author comparison and found that these two literatures never knew about each other.
Right.
No cross-pollination.
Right.
So he goes out and he proposes a clinical trial on fish oil, and sure enough, it passed.
Hmm. Yeah. So
So,
that's like what a
so that
future researcher could do with our data. They could try to
that was
connect things.
that
Yeah.
was so. This is the whole point. All right. So let me return to my PhD work.
Yep.
I for health reasons I left the PhD project, but I had already I had already, first of all, I defended the thesis proposal in the UK, in Europe, that's called a mini viva.
Okay.
Defend your thesis proposal. Now you're all but dissertation, ABD. And now you have to defend your dissertation. You have to write
Okay.
it, defend it. Well, I had already written the program that would defend it. That was
Okay.
done. But my health was getting weird, so I left the program to be safe. And that program that I wrote has now grown up to be known as Open Sherlock.
Ah,
And it is all about, basically, it's a topic map with a natural language processor platform engaged on it. And it will be reading PubMed documents by the million.
yeah, that's great.
And in fact, I'm getting very close to starting it up. The where was I going? God, I'm so nonlinear, I lose myself.
It's okay.
PubMed documents, PubMed is one word,
Yeah, I know. Mhm.
and so here's a tidbit for you. If you go to search.carrot2.org,
CARAT, what carrot?
carrot, CARROT
Okay.
2.org,
Okay.
they'll give you two little boxes. One's called Web and the other is called PubMed.
Okay.
And it's a clustering engine. So
Yeah.
it bring down 200 hits and then cluster them and tell you how they're alike each other. That's the most powerful search engine I've ever used.
Yeah, I think clustering is a very important
Right.
concept. I've seen it in my thinking. Yeah.
So what I do with Open Sherlock is but Carrot 2 is open source, so I brought it down and
Okay.
modified it so that I could say, here's a query on A and B,
Mhm.
CKD and IBS or whatever. And the
Okay.
point is that it then brings down, and when you bring it down to your desktop, you can tell it how many to bring down. And so
Right.
I say bring down 500 at a time, and then it'll keep repeating. And
Mhm.
that's what I've used to bring down 11 million so far PubMed documents. And I have the clusters, so that's a hint for when you're doing the machine reading, etc.
Yep. That's
Uh,
interesting. My company was looking at this, and I was involved in a project which just used the abstracts from PubMed based on a specific query that the scientist provided. And then I just brought down those abstracts into SharePoint and then tried to give them a way of looking at
that
defining some information. Yeah.
and there's a huge body of literature on building knowledge graphs from PubMed
Mhm.
abstracts. That's
Yep.
all out there.
Mhm.
But what I'm doing of late is I'm bringing down several million of the full
The full text.
PMC documents.
Oh yeah, the PMC IDs. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and so I've got a couple million of them already. Now there's the cardinality is nowhere the same. I mean, there's like 30 million PubMed documents, but the open access PMC IDs
Mhm.
is really small.
Right.
You still want them, all
Yeah,
of them.
you want to track those IDs, yes.
Right.
Do you know of any AI large language models against PubMed?
Well, okay, so there's a website called, I think it's called paper2graph.com, I think. Let me check to be sure.
Yeah, I'll just pasted that. Let's see if it goes somewhere. I can't find it.
Uh
So that too.
paper2graph.ai.
Okay.
Okay, now if you'll go there, it has a little example query. and it's using GPT. You have a choice of GPT-3, 4, whatever. And it does a
Okay,
very nice job of
got it. Hi, Sam.
Hey,
it does a very nice it does very nice. By the way, paper to graph is at GitHub. Now here's the problem,
Oh.
paper to graph, just to give you an advance.
Mhm.
First of all, my AI work is done with the open source language models.
Okay,
And paper to graph uses an awful lot of the internal APIs of ChatGPT,
okay,
which means you can't run their query system on any other language model because
okay.
I've tried it. It simply doesn't work.
Hmm.
So if we're going to do serious open source, open access biomedical research, it can't be with ChatGPT or any of the for fee models.
Interesting. Yeah, so now you're getting into a marketplace with these proprietary models advertising how many trillions of things. Yeah. And then you got to buy them access to the model to do your
That's
work.
correct. So a friend of mine gifted me um, a very powerful GPU. So
Okay.
I have a GPU that I use.
Hmm.
And so the trick is to learn how to do
Yeah, the
the
training,
engineering for that.
prompt engineering for your model.
Yeah.
So you okay.
Well, prompt engineering is going to be different for every language model you use.
That's right.
And there are a number of open source Python packages that make prompt engineering easier.
Hmm.
So that's the game.
Yeah, I've been looking at the Microsoft's entry into the markets, how you could use .NET code to do prompt engineering, and you have to really save some state between the calls. And yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's talk to Sam Chan. Hello, Sam.
hello, Eric. Hello,
And sorry, I've got to run anyhow, but
Okay, thank you so much, Jack. You've
great
given
seeing
us a lot of information. I appreciate it.
Yep.
We'll
Yeah,
see you
great work,
around.
Jack. I was going to say I have a friend, Jim Logan, who runs the Ontology Club on Clubhouse every Friday. You should come join.
can you ping me with that or how?
Yeah, are you connected on Facebook in the group, the
No,
GCC
no,
group?
no, no. Oh, is this a Facebook group?
No, this
Part
is
of it.
actually a Clubhouse group. It's an old app that nobody uses anymore.
Oh, well, that's interesting. If you just use jackpark@gmail, that'll get me and ping me with how to get to it.
All right, I'll find you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Cheers.
Jack. Have a good day.
I was going to ask ChatGPT about how to use ChatGPT API from the open source thing. So I'm sure there's an answer, but from what I can tell, as long as you have APIs, somebody else give you an API that can run that whatever you need to run, it should be working fine. That's the way I understood it.
Yeah, I think you have to have an account that you can get an API
Either you
key.
have an account or somebody else has an account to give you the API they have authorized.
Right.
Yeah, that's all. That's all.
Yeah. And it's really just constructing a prompt, sending it to the
Yeah.
API,
Yeah,
and
that's
then
it.
yeah, and
The API will
then
take care of everything.
yeah.
Supposedly, that's what I
Well,
was
you're responsible for parsing the results and
right.
using it for future references in the
Right.
conversation. Yep.
That's so I'm not sure what he's talking about. Like, okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
like go ahead.
oh, I was just saying that was so fascinating because when I was working at the Microbiome Learning Center, I had to
Mm,
take all the PubMed documents. And then for a non-scientist, I'm reading them, and there was about 50 to 100 terms that I had to go in and create a definition for in order just to read the document, to read the whole paper.
exactly.
So
And
the work that he's doing, that's so important to I mean, the two goals that I have in life is one, to get all the science information dumbed down to the public so they can
Mhm,
just read it in plain English. And then
mhm.
two is to get all of the meeting notes of the United States Congress
Oh
dumbed
boy,
down for the public. So
good
they
idea.
publish it every day,
I don't think they'd
but
want you to see what they're talking about.
no,
I don't
it's all they
think.
it's been published since our country started. They
Yeah,
have
I
the
know it's in the
secretary
Federal
notes.
Register. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's they want you to see it. They just don't want
They don't want you to think
it
about
to be
it.
easy. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, obfuscate it.
they don't want the comment period to actually become a comment period,
Yeah, I get
if that
that.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you don't want intelligent people asking questions.
You don't want the populace to become intelligent. That's the
Ah,
problem.
that's it. Yeah.
You don't want town halls to start sprouting up all over the social media
Uh-huh.
networks and people actually talking about the real bill that was passed for the Ukraine war that allows
Exactly.
cobalt to be mined in Idaho.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
the pork barrel. Yep.
Yep. Anyway, that was great. Thank you, Eric, for inviting Jack. That was
Sure. Hmm.
yeah, he'll definitely love the ontology. They just literally sit and talk for 3 hours every Friday or every other Friday about that edge. Where
Hmm.
is the edge between the concept of the thing of the it gets really heady. It's so
Yeah, and I'm thinking about education because if you're a medical student, you're going to learn all these terms over time, and you're going to need to make an internal map to concepts you understand. So that's happening as these
well.
people, yeah,
What's even more interesting is that they start creating new terms for the new papers that are published on a new
right.
thing. So there's new dictionary language. What's the word? New definitions.
Yeah, coining new terms. Yeah.
All
Hmm.
the thousands of them per week.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm guessing,
so
but I saw in the microbiome world, I saw new terms popping up weekly
wow.
that we would do a thing called talk with a scientist. So we'd have Zoom meetings with scientists, and then we'd start reading the papers together. And the scientists were going, okay, I've heard of this in a conference 3 years ago with my friend, da 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 da. But this was a term that wasn't real back then, but
Right.
now,
And
oh,
I'm also thinking about math. You use a new Greek letter to represent something which has a whole history behind it, you know?
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I
And it's,
remember what Barry was. I remember what Barry was saying. When scientific scientists discover something is unknown or don't know how to explain, they put a term to it. They put a name. They add a name to it.
Yeah,
You think
omega.
of it this way: like you
Yeah.
have three kids. You have Tom. You name the first kid as Tom, and then the second kid accidentally showed up. What are you going to name them, right? It has unknown. You can say we can say Tom number two. You can say it's Michael. Okay, whatever. So anything's unknown, you need to put a label on it. Unless you have put a label on the new thing they discovered, there's nothing to talk about it. I think that's how I think about it.
yeah.
So
I think
anyway,
lab. Oh, go
I
ahead,
just
sir.
came up with something that you guys are talking about. I'm so happy to hear this. So I'm struggling with a lot of medical terminology because English is my fifth language. So I'm
Wow.
way behind you guys. Anyway, so I was thinking about people are addicted to TikToks and video and all that drama things, right? So I think about how could if I can use AI to use medical concept and create a drama out of it, just like create something like drama out of Barry's, theory and all that stuff. So if I can create a drama out of the medical terminology, lungs have a character and maybe look like a lung or maybe look like a human being or whatever, and they somehow you talk about you create a picture like what you're saying, Eric. You say you create a picture, internal picture of how representing how each organ is interact with each other, each hormones interact with each other. How about
Um,
drama? How do they interact with each other? That will be more fun.
Can you say that again, Sam? I didn't quite catch all of that. How,
So
what
so
is
imagine
with
that
each
let's
other?
say you have let's say you have 5 organs, okay?
Organs. Okay.
Five organs that interact with each other based on the hormones that work with each other. So now you have a setup for a drama that can go on, and like if the drama was done correctly, then you can explain the concept behind the each organs and the chemical that they interact with and the effect they cause each other. So it's a dramatize the organization of the organs.
It's like
Instead of
Inside Out, except not with emotions, but with organs.
yeah, that's right.
So
So
there's a
organs,
yeah.
hormones, production, rate of all that stuff. So that's
Mhm.
how I think.
I went to a lecture at the University of California in Santa Barbara from the Dr. Yeshi Donden, who was the Dalai Lama's personal physician.
Mm.
And in that lecture, that's how he described, because I asked him, why do we have cancer? Why do we have AIDS? Why are these things working? And in his description of talking through a translator, he explained it the way you just said, Sam, is it's a drama in the house of the body. And one of the siblings, meaning one of the organs or a related part of the body to the organ, is throwing a temper tantrum and being all angry. And he was saying that in Western medicine, they just come in and they grab the sibling and they knock him on the head and just take him out and then pull him out of the body. But in Chinese medicine, they talk to each other, take the time to keep the peace. Because if you kill one of the siblings in a family, it's quiet in the house for a while, but then later there's problems. Hey, why'd you kill my brother? So
That's right.
he described it much like you're saying, the drama
Yeah.
of the organs.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of those medical terminology is so complicated that I just learned. I watched one of the video. I forgot which one video was that. It's basically our brain is is actually construct of trillions of they call that the tiny cells. Think of it like
Neurons.
Neurons.
yeah, neuron is each neuron is a single cell by cell. It's useless until they're put together. It's like if
Right.
you kill one, you might kill the other or something like that. So if you think of it this way, how the Parkinson's disease existed because the pesticide was supposed to kill the pests and all the pests in the plant, but because you take it, you swallow it or you breathe it in or whatever. Now you're killing the whatever is in your head. So that's causing the Parkinson to happen. So again, the dramatization make things people more addictive, simple to understand as a story behind it and all that. I think it's a lot more fun than that. So I was like, okay, how could I use AI tool to be able to, construct that and make it like if I take 20,000 document and create it and make it facts proof, double check, all that, like make it factually correct and medically correct. So what do you think?
I think we need to have a long conversation, Sam. I would love to talk to you about. I've been thinking about this for years. So this is
Yeah,
like just. Oh, go ahead.
you're building Dr. McCoy's bio bed on Star Trek. You lay down, it diagnoses you.
I would like to because I watch Chinese medicine and they just take the tongue,
Yeah.
the eye, the skin, and then those three, the pulses, and
Mhm.
through that they're diagnosing.
Mhm.
But if you use that with Western medicine together, how powerful is that? It's just so powerful to take your iPhone out, get into some good light, take a picture of your tongue, and
Mhm.
send it into a large language model and start the diagnostic process there. And then go down the line of, your fluid, your pH balance, do a hormone test. I mean, we
I
could be
think,
doing medicine so much better.
yeah, think what that would mean for third world countries who don't have
Mhm.
access. Yeah, if there were simple natural remedies they could use, and that's indigenous wisdom too, that could be
Yeah.
incorporated.
Well, it's also
Ah,
cheaper. I mean,
yeah.
you could
Hmm.
create a device where you spit on it and it will do your DNA analysis in the cloud with a just sending up some basic information through the cloud.
Yep.
But anyway, that's
Okay,
neither here nor there.
it's a
Yeah.
dream. Yeah, we should keep dreaming that way.
So
It's a dream. Yeah.
the way I think about it is that if the scientists can think about it, things at this level, meaning that they have a microscopic view, they have a telescopic view, and they have what kind of spectrum analysis view, whatever view they have, they help them to be scientifically accurately predict what will happen or what have you. The way that they understood it is, I can sort of like putting the regular people that elevate their knowledge so that they can at least come close to it. So education to me is a how do I say it? Education is the key to remove the ignorance, the stupidity, all that stuff. So if we can help them to elevate their knowledge to that close to not equal to scientific level, to me that's the biggest thing, because now we can evaluate things at much higher level than instead of very dumb level.
Yep.
Yeah. That would be ideal. My dream was to have supercomputers in our pockets at all times. And that dream came true, I would say somewhere around 2016 with the iPhone 6. And the speed of Snapdragon processors. So that dream has superseded my dreams with these new chips coming out in the new phones in September for the iPhone. What is it? What are we up to? 16?
16. Either 15S or 16, one or the other. 15,
Yeah, I'm
15S, or how 15 then there's an S version or the 16 version, whatever.
Yeah, I'm hearing rumors that the personal AI that Apple put in their WDC3 or WWDC, I can never say that,
Yeah.
the Worldwide Developer Conference, they went a little bit ahead of what they were able to do. So they're not going to be able to roll out their software until probably April to June of next year.
Yeah, that's typical.
Yeah, but they are a little ambitious. So in other words, it's probably the iPhone 17 that will be able to do these type of things. But in terms of just having your own biochemistry lab, I wonder what you guys think in terms of selling, maybe an $800 or $1,200 kit that sits in your house that does a lot of the technical work that laboratories do and uses cloud computing and personal intelligence.
Well,
in your house.
personal feedback is helpful. Like if I could see what's my A1C trend or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, couldn't we
Uh,
develop a small kit that is cheap and inexpensive?
the problem is the money. The company's making so much money on these little glucose monitors, and you're bucking the
Well, if
system.
you could, that's very disruptive company that would do that. I'm saying you could
Yeah.
take out all the insurance companies, take out the whole system, screw them all over, and then later they can make their money in the back end when you have to get the real medical, when you're diagnosed and you need a surgery, then you get to go to the hospital. And then, like, maybe it could actually be a win for the hospitals. If you think about it, they'll make more money because they got diagnosed when they wouldn't go into the hospital.
Okay, now try telling your congressperson to do this. What's in the
Well,
way? They're lobbying
I would
of
work.
every.
Yeah, I would work directly with the large private hospitals that make the money. They're businesses. They like money.
Yep. Yeah, you have to do the end run around the system. It's weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
You do it in Canada first or the Europe.
Ah, okay.
Well, there's a company doing it in
America
Texas.
has to follow the world leader when we're no longer the leader.
Yeah, you do it. I do it in Mexico first.
There you go.
No, I don't know about Mexico.
Ah, boy.
Anyway, I got excited. That was fun. I really think the edges of cross-referencing information and creating new ontologies that become the ISO standard, that will fix the world. But we need them to be standards. We need them to be thought about, because I think these Perplexity, Claude type companies, they don't have the accreditation, in my opinion, to start building models that we all use on a date. Like Google should never have been allowed to be created without more oversight. I think they got lucky.
Now, what about industry groups? So like a small group of medical organizations that would really want to look at this. Could you start there?
You talk about politics when you get into the health field. This is why I got out of the health field.
Yep.
The politics in the health field are more cutthroat than living in the Gaza Strip right now.
I get it. Yep.
So,
yeah.
It's 1/6 of the United States economy. 1/6 is healthcare.
Okay, so could you create an artifact that future generations can look at with all your thinking on this and all Sam's thinking, and make it visible somehow to future generations when times change? That's Harry
I don't know.
Seldon's vault from Foundation.
Is that what he's doing?
No, in the movie, the book Foundation, he had a vault of
Ah,
the knowledge Encyclopedia Galactica because he knew there's going to be 1,000 years of darkness, and then people will pay attention to his
well,
research.
what you just said, I've only watched like the first two episodes of Foundation on
Yep.
Apple, so
Yep.
I don't know that world very well, but I did see the first episode was dark and dreary with this type of.
Yeah.
But the reason I bring this up is that Foundation series is an actual realistic aspect of cultures that have been on this planet. And if you look at ancient texts, and when I say ancient, I don't mean 10,000 or 12,000, I mean 50 to 100,000-year-old text.
Yep.
And that can be disputed. We don't have 100,000-year-old text that you know of, but there's esoteric stuff that
Oh yeah.
is
Yeah.
passed down
Yeah. Then
through.
you got us discern that. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm saying they always talk about periods of time where it's a reset.
Yep.
And just in the knowledge that we have, we know of at least 5 or 6 resets, whether it be the Roman culture or the Phoenicians or the Egyptians. There's been a lot of resets, the
Yeah.
Babylonians.
Or the great flood of Noah.
Yeah,
Or Atlant
that was one of many.
Yeah, Atlantis, who knows? Yeah.
That,
Yeah,
well,
you get into speculation now. But that's the idea. Like think what can we put out there? Like, will the Internet Archive be around? Do we need artifacts somewhere else? I don't know.
well, here's a question. I mean, have you guys ever worked on something for months and then you just scrapped it and moved on to another project?
Oh yeah.
And that information, some parts were relevant, but not very much. In other words, sometimes it's good to scrap the whole thing and start fresh from first principles.
Yep. But I think there's value in some of the bringing forward some of the old concepts, like what Sam and I are trying to do with Douglas Engelbart's work. There's
Mm-hmm.
something of value that we could try in our lifetime to advance a little bit and see where it takes us.
Well, I guess you could say
Yeah.
the steam engine was scrapped in favor of electric motors, for example.
Or
But
was it?
hmm, steam is there's a whole steam community who does
Um,
experiments with.
it's more in literature anymore than reality. I would be surprised to find steam powered stuff that hasn't been superseded by electric motors by now.
But in a nuclear power plant, ultimately you're creating steam to power turbines, right?
Yeah, because you got an excess of heat. Your source
Yeah.
is, I guess, where all you've got is heat. Well, even then, thermocouples,
Yep.
so what are they called?
Heat exchangers, whatever.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about that yesterday, Barry. The steam heating systems in New York, the housing authority has put a
Yeah,
ban on those systems.
yeah, they're generally inefficient and costly. And there may be niche applications, I suppose, but
Are
boy, I just
those
don't
the
think
old radiators? Is
yeah,
that what they're?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I had one in college.
or just even circulating hot water, not even going to steam.
Hmm. So what are they going to instead of that? Is
Well,
it heat
you're
pumps?
going to heat pumps and
Mhm.
well, heat pumps is essentially
Yeah.
electric powered.
Yeah, I'm worried about all this push to electric powered things.
Yeah, but the thing is,
There's
I think you can make electricity in bulk a lot cheap, especially from sunlight, a lot cheaper than burning fossil fuels. This traditional way to make heat is burning fossil fuels, and that's got to end.
Mhm.
Can't keep on burning fossil fuels to make heat. And thermodynamic conversion to mechanical power or electric power is not very efficient.
Yeah. Um, but see, with the solar, you have to store it in batteries,
Uh,
and then
I
yeah,
mean, making heat from, say, mirrors on the sun, okay, that's fine because you're going to end up with heat if you don't anyway. So it's a
mhm.
difference.
We need
It's
to
hard.
build a Dyson sphere around the sun.
I was just going to say that, Eric. I was going to say if the ITER project could turn into a global storage of energy project, that would be great.
They're actually looking for stars that have the signature of a Dyson sphere.
Right.
Well, they're going to find it, but But it turns out,
That's the
They're
yeah, I saw
guessing.
that in the news. That's
yeah,
silly.
it's a bit silly, but it's not totally out of the question. It's just very unlikely. It has to be a pretty small star, I think, and not 100% surrounded, just a substantial fraction of it. But if it were true, then the stars would produce heat rather than light. That is, when astronomically you would see heat instead of uh, visible photons. Because what happens is the Dyson sphere converts visible photons into heat at the end of the day.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, that's my whole point is say you got so sophisticated that we started building these Dyson spheres and so on and so forth. And then fast forward 3,000 years into the future, we find out, oh, the system was perfect as it was with the plants growing and the way it was before.
Right. I think it's a low probability, but the thing is just looking for it in the existing uh, astronomical data is just a data processing thing. So because they have infrared telescopes that have been around for a long time, and so they're just simply going to look through the existing data. It's not new. It's not new searching of the skies.
Well,
It's searching of the existing record.
yeah, I wanted to share with you guys. Have you found? I just found this and it blew my mind. There's a guy on YouTube named Epic Spaceman, and he's using incredible graphics to explain both inner space and outer space.
Oh,
And
cool.
he just made a new video. I'll put it into the chat. Where
Yeah,
he
thanks. Oops,
Oh,
you
Josh,
frozen, Josh?
Like give him if he doesn't come back in 20 seconds.
tardigrade.
Yeah, you're breaking up, Josh.
Yeah, it's a hunt. Yeah, going down.
Could you just
Oh,
put it in the
can you
chat?
hear me?
It's
It's literally
hard to, yeah, you're
Yep.
breaking up.
Right.
Thank you.
Might turn off your camera for a second.
Mhm. Yeah, reset bandwidth. Hmm.
He's on Starlink, so he has this pass.
Yeah,
He switched
okay.
from the directly overhead to one that's off axis.
Okay. That's an interesting problem, technically, how to do that.
Same problem with cell phones, and you're traveling. You get in
Yep,
halfway between two cell towers.
yep.
It's
The
dicey.
switch over. Yep. What I was just thinking is the astronomy community, if you look at how they have leveraged hundreds of years of data
Right.
in their going forward, I think that's a great model to be able to take like Tycho Brahe's measurements
Right.
are still valid evidence for
Yeah,
Kepler's.
so remining the existing data, looking for new patterns.
Right.
They're always there. They just never were looked for before.
Yeah, we need the immutable data permanently stored.
Well, for example, there's these recurrent novas. Like there's one that
Yeah.
they're expecting, and you can find these recurrent novas. There aren't very many of them, but they understand the physics of a recurrent nova. It's a
Right. And
binary
then
star that eats its neighbor and then burps, eats its neighbor and burps.
right. And then you could find stories of monks who saw something strange years ago. Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating what you could do when you have that level of coordinated data with intelligence, whether it's artificial or human.
So yeah, looking for
Yeah.
patterns in extant data, that could be a very profitable domain of work with the modern information processing capacities.
So looking at science fiction, I see examples in the modern science fiction of the future interfaces where you just say what you want and the computer really understands it and knows the best way to get the data and present it to you. And the flexibility of the user interface, 3D hollow projections. So people are dreaming this way, and hopefully our kids will be smart enough to take us in that direction.
One of the things I keep watching for, because I attend to puzzles and riddles as a avocation, and to the extent to which AI is either an aid to solving riddles and puzzles or capable of solving them without collaboration.
Interesting connection I found recently. On your MUD, you have the Science Center and you have this thing called the Bagels puzzle. which is
Yes.
the same. It's just a mastermind game, essentially, right?
Yeah.
You put in a 4-digit number and it tells you which numbers are in the right place and which are not in the right place, but you have that number in the code.
Yeah.
So I was watching a video by Robert Martin yesterday about functional programming for Mastermind, because I'm trying to wrap my head around this whole idea of coding without assignment statements and using Lisp-like languages. And he goes through step by step how you think about this problem using a test-driven development approach. So he writes a test that's going to fail, and then he writes some code to make the test pass. And it's just really small steps where he refines his code. And by following that process, at the end, he has a very compact piece of code that does the logic for Mastermind.
Mhm.
Yeah, using functions, no assignment statements or anything. And that's what Sam's goal is, to try to re-engineer maybe pieces of Douglas Engelbart's system into a functional language with a functional database like Datomic. And I mean, really, for me, it's a learning experience. It's totally not what I learned growing up on how to code, you know? Yeah.
What is Datomics, Eric?
Oh, Sam suggested this. It's a database which is key value pairs plus timestamps and transactions. So it's a 5-tuple, and with it, you have relations among these tuples, and it preserves the full provenance of your facts. So you can query it in a way that you can see the latest accurate version of the source of truth, and you could go back to the whole provenance. So it's like a historical database, but Sam thinks it's very powerful, and I want to get more experience in that. It's DATOMIC. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
There's an obscure branch of logic that Raymond Smullyan popularized called combinatorial logic or combinatorial logic.
Okay.
I have never seen any serious deployment of, but I'm thinking in this whole world of puzzles and riddles, I could imagine at some point that somebody writes code that implements combinatorial logic to solve things like these Sudoku class puzzles, combinatorial puzzles, where they're kind of like riddles because you're looking for a needle in a haystack.
Mm-hmm.
Yet you can solve them systematically by a sequence of logical deductions.
Right.
And right now, I only know a few world-class people who can do that.
Yes, actually, for Mastermind, Donald Knuth came up with an algorithm for solving Mastermind in 5 moves. Essentially. Yeah.
So I keep waiting for the Sudoku crowd to discover combinatorial logic and work out that you can automate some of the logic that people like Simon Anthony use, with great difficulty in his daily recordings of applying rigorous logic to solve these generalized Sudoku puzzles.
Well, the AlphaGo, the Go champion of the world was defeated by AI, the AlphaGo.
Yeah.
I was about 13 or 14 years old. This is where I discovered that you talk about the 5 steps. I was able to solve the mastermind in 5 steps.
Wow.
But I can only last 2 times, and I have to go take a nap.
Yeah, boggles your mind.
It really consumes a lot. I have no idea. It's like, wow, it's so heavy.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of intricate reasoning. Okay, what should I guess next? Because this number's in, maybe this number's here, maybe this number's not here. Yeah.
The way that we play mastermind is a black and white pole,
pegs,
and then the white peg, and then the cover up the answers, all that stuff. So I found out that yes, I can handle it, but then I only be careful. I have to prepare before I 2 rounds, and I must take a nap. Like no way.
But you see what this means for me? This video is a way that I can really study the functional programming algorithm that Robert Martin shows, because he's doing things like map reduce of lists, and I'm starting to get a sense of what that means now, just by seeing the example of a simple game step by step doing a test and refactoring until you get the final code that works.
Yep. And what I also learned is that if I had to play chess with my same way of aggressiveness and
Yep.
we call that all the way up, use up all my CPU, I would
Uh-huh.
lose the game.
Yeah, there was a chess series called The Queen's Gambit on Hulu, I think. It's yeah, a good mini series if you're interested in chess.
Yeah, I mean, again, if I have to compute all the possible steps, sort of like I do in my head,
Hmm.
I wouldn't last it. But for mastermind, I can handle about 2 rounds. I can get about 5 steps. So
Hmm.
I know that's my bandwidth, my
Hmm.
capacity. So that's about it. So that's what I learned is so I never since I discovered that I stopped playing chess because it's for me it's just like sucking out my juice out of my me. It's like no, I'm
Yep.
not playing that. I'm
So
not used to it.
yeah, so what The Queen's Gambit is about, it's a girl who had a terrible childhood, but then she found this 8 by 8 grid of pieces moving around that gave her something to hold on to in her life, for structure in her life.
Right.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a great. I enjoy it. We watched it together.
Yep.
There's
Mhm.
actually a lady. I'm trying to remember her name, but she's very famous on YouTube. Her mom was a grandmaster,
Mm,
and she runs around the world playing all different people in the park at great chess tournaments, and she's popularizing chess again.
that's wonderful.
Um,
Yeah.
young lady, yeah, it's really nice because it's a lot of it's about the relationship between the players, not the game
Hmm.
itself or how you open, but the game of the two people getting to know each other during the game with
Yep.
time. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and
It's
if you
fun to
can get
watch.
the high level thinking going on, oh, he's doing this move, I'm gonna counter with that move, and we're get
But
leading
but I'm going to
towards
talk about smoothies and pretend like I'm chilling while I'm doing all this high calculation, so the other person
exactly.
doesn't see the part that I'm doing like a magic trick.
Yeah, poker
In order,
face.
yeah, it's really
Distracting people from looking at the thing, which if they looked at it, they would see, aha, but you don't want
well.
them to see it.
If it's a timed game and you can distract them long enough, they run out of time, so
Yeah,
you win. So there's that part of it.
yeah,
It's really fascinating.
yeah.
I mean, all the games are like that, especially Mahjong, right?
What about
See,
Marjan?
It's a psychology game. Everything is it's
Oh
like
yeah.
poker is a psychology game as well. So it's like all the games are like that.
we
All about
really enjoy the competitive games in all aspects because it gets us, yeah, really motivated. But if you're trying to teach people how to collaborate, it's a whole different game.
yeah.
Yeah, and there are examples of research done with children in other countries where they can get candy if they play a certain way, but like American children, they're going to fight and never get any candy. But the kids see an obvious strategy where they could both win candy.
So
Yeah.
look, it brings out the 3 steps, right? So the tool, which is whatever that game piece is or whatever the game rule is, the tool, and then the action to do something, and then they look at the feedback, and then you go
Mhm.
back to whatever the next action is going to do. So it's a feedback loop that, and then if you put out that's a behavior you want, like if giving them the candy when they play a certain way, you
Mhm.
have the whole scenario, like how do you
Yep.
create it?
And I used that model in a video about playing tic-tac-toe for Bitcoin. So say you have two players playing tic-tac-toe and a random number of Bitcoins is available to the winner. Well, if you're competing, you're always gonna be trying to win, but you never win because it's a tie game. But if you have a strategy that you agree, okay, I'm gonna win this one, you win the next one, and then we keep alternating, you'll win all the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's sort of cheating because you're collaborating with your opponent when you're not supposed to.
Right, but if the rules of the game are that this is an unlimited supply of Bitcoin available from the dealer, that's the thing. It's a different way of thinking of abundance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Mm,
That's the game I want to play. It's
mm,
okay, let's pretend we're competing, but really we're collaborating. and then we create crony capitalism.
Well, the Sudoku channel is like that because you have the puzzle setters who set a puzzle, and then the puzzle solvers who attempt to solve it, in a reasonable amount of time, record themselves. And yet it's a collaboration between the setter community and the solver community. And of course, the people even play both sides. Sometimes the people who are good at solving also occasionally set a puzzle. So without it, you wouldn't have a whole culture. You have the setters and the solvers are competing, but they're also collaborating.
Nice.
Yeah. So the theory of capitalism was that if people are competing, an invisible hand will guide them to
Right.
the best thing for everybody.
Right. And the whole thing is that the audience needs to be entertained by watching a very clever puzzle being solved by a very clever solver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyways, in case you're interested, I posted a link on about the
Oh, okay.
so the drama, how to create drama. That's a shortcut here.
Yeah. Oh, I got it. That's
Yeah,
nice.
so, yeah. And you talk about game theory. I think last week or the week before, I posted a link about game theory and about all that game theory thing. He said, what do you call it? If I punch you, you punch me back. How do you optimize the game? Yeah.
Prisoner's Dilemma.
Yeah.
There's so much we could learn from game theory, really.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite subjects, and that YouTube video just like handled it for me. It's like, be nice and you'll be the winner.
I mean, this was in John Nash's algorithms for equilibrium, and it led to a whole field of research.
But if someone punch you, you need to punch them back to let them know that I got your punch. Just don't mess with me.
I mean, this could be global politics too.
Basically, you hold up a mirror that echoes back the punch. So all you're doing is holding up a mirror, but anything you do automatically hits you. So
now, I keep wondering how the kids playing these video games today, how their mind is being developed, because they're using magic in the games to all kinds of crazy stuff. How are they thinking about problem solving going forward now? They're okay, I'm out of college, I have to get a job. What?
the optimal defense is a perfect mirror. Whatever you shoot at me automatically hits you.
Yep.
Yeah, the thing that worries me is that they are so detached from the reality that we grow up from the earth and the dirt and the plant and the nature. It's like, and just when you're so detached of it, you're living in the la la land. It's like you know.
Yep. What do you mean I can't have internet? I have to pay for internet? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I have to get a job to pay for my internet? What?
So the goes like the patient. So like it used to be we talk about a lunch joke, which is like in the kindergarten, the teacher is heating up the lunch, and the kid was asking the teacher, teacher, if it is microwave, why is it taking so long, right? So that's one step. Now the next level is that instant gratification is too slow for me, and now you will talk about instantaneous response, like TikTok.
Okay. Now say the kid gets diabetes and now they're in the medical system and they learn, okay, this microwave food has not been good for me, and they have to change to organic or plant-based or whatever. And I mean, it's life growth. How are you teaching your kids to survive?
Yeah. From my perspective, if I have a choice, I would bring them to a village where they grow, no electronics, just grow them for the first 7 years of their lives. Let them grow up in nature. That would be my choice.
Yep.
But who has the luxury of doing that? Like,
if your whole life depends on computer systems and your iPhone, who knows?
Yeah, I just watched a YouTuber. They made a living going to places where people have a lot of money and asking them what they do for a living.
Right.
And the one that blew my mind was this lady with a $450,000 car, and said, "What do you do for a living? How do you have this beautiful car?" And she said, "Oh, I'm the hot girl that jumps on top of cars and breaks them." And so she gets out of her car, jumps on top of her $450,000 car, smashes the windshield, and drives away.
And advertisers are supporting her lifestyle, essentially. Who knows? Yeah.
So what they've tapped into is that most visceral part of human nature of
Right.
watching someone destroy a beautiful thing, and she's worth enough money to keep destroying beautiful things. So it's
Yeah, it's
the constant,
engagement. It
it's
gets
the
more
engagement.
eyeballs. Yeah. So then, yeah, because if she gets sponsored by an advertiser, they can promote other products to her audience, and they'll find
And if
out all
she
the
get if she
demographics.
gets 500 million views of
Right.
hot chick destroys
Yep.
Bugatti.
And the
And I,
reason he can do that, the reason she can do that is a supply and demand game, right?
yep,
If
yep.
the
Yes.
supply is goes up, like 10,000 people are doing that, then she won't be able to do that anymore because then the supply is abundant. So
Yeah, she
Well,
has to stay on top. Yeah.
yeah, I had a friend of mine, he learned how to laser etch on Rolexes, and he had to spend $80,000 to figure out how to do this, make a few mistakes. But
Hmm.
then he could charge people an extra $20,000 to laser etch
Wow.
specific things onto their Rolex. So
Okay.
it costs him maybe $1,000 for the laser etching machine,
Yep.
but then he makes a $19,000 profit for every Rolex that he laser etches onto.
Now, if you compare these influencers to someone like me who's has a few hundred videos and a few hundred followers, maybe 150 followers, but what I'm putting out is my brain, my interests, my research for anyone who wants to watch. And I don't really care who watches or not. But like with Kansas Fest, people who are interested in the Apple computer, I put out a video today that shows how I hooked up a cord keyboard to the Apple computer, and I wrote a program where it shows you what Doug Engelbart would have done in NLS to type in binary and what commands would come up when he pressed this combination with these two mouse buttons down. And I think
Yeah.
that's a valuable thing for people to see because you don't know that it's lost. And now I can bring
Right.
it back.
It's extremely interesting, but no engagement.
Right. But I
So so
see a path forward with Sam if we yeah, I mean
so what I've been
yeah.
trying to communicate to all my intellectual friends is have one of those hot girls kick you in the nuts at Kansas Fest, and you film the video kicking a nerd in the nuts for creating a quirky keyboard that connects to the, and you put that on there, and then boom, you're all over TikTok and you got all the engagement, and
Yeah.
now you have 4,000 subscribers.
Okay, and that will fund Sam's projects. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I'll sacrifice my nuts for
Think of
Sam's.
the dunk tank at the carnival.
Yeah, but I don't think that'll get past the rules of the community rules of Kansas Fest because you have to
I don't know.
respect everybody. Yep.
I'm just
Fun,
saying
fun.
that's what I've been on the internet long enough to know what works, and
Yep, you got it. Yeah.
yeah.
But where are the communities like ours? Where are
It's like
those?
wrestling ballet. Superficially, it looks like wrestling, but it's really ballet. They're not hurting each other at all. It just looks like they're hurting each other.
So it's all about
but
bread
but
and circuses.
but think about the edges, like Jack was talking about nodes. Where are the communities like ours?
Yeah.
We're all by ourselves, not going to clubs, not going to places and connecting, not chit chatting on. We're all siloed in our own little world, so we'll never find each other. Like
Yeah,
I
unless
put
the internet connects us. Yeah.
yeah, I put Epic Spaceman in there because I've been looking for a channel like this. It's been out
Uh-huh.
for a year, and I just
Right.
found it this week.
Cool.
But I'm saying, where was, before
Yeah,
he
how'd you
doesn't have
know? Hmm.
the algorithm eventually found it for me,
Yeah, and see, like
but I'm
people,
just, yeah,
yeah, as an example with the Apple computer, there are people doing amazing things on their own because the computer was designed that way. You can plug whatever hardware you want into it, build your own circuits, and people are doing it, but they don't know about other people doing the same similar things who love the thing. And it's through this community, Kansas Fest. Well, there are videos you could watch to get started and learn what other people are doing. And if you want to go to Kansas City, you can. Yeah.
Well, I notice in the academic world, they don't have people that, like, when you go to any of the university YouTube channels,
Mhm.
they don't do the descriptions very well. They don't
Right.
link to other things very well. They're not trying to promote. They're trying, like
Yep.
the shareholder meeting for Tesla. His audio
Yep.
sucked.
Yep.
It's one of the
Interesting.
biggest, most important meetings going on in our time, and they spend zero energy on advertising,
Mhm.
on audio, on all the things that would make it, work. And that the guy is what, Asperger's? Like,
Yeah. Well, they got to hire the girl to smash a car at that meeting, and then they'll get views.
well, that's what made his Cybertruck so popular, is by mistake his right-hand man smashed the truck with a ball, and it made
Oh
it,
my.
if he hadn't done that, no one would have cared about that car.
Yep.
That was a lucky accident.
Yep.
But does she actually damage a fully outfitted Bugatti or simply a mock-up of a Bugatti? Like in the movies, the cars that get in the accidents aren't completely cars. They're just the
Well,
superficial shell of a
that's
car.
the trick there. You've got to tune in and watch and see, is it a real Bugatti or is it a mock-up
My
of a
guess
Bugatti?
is they're using mock-ups that look like Bugattis, but the innards are not even there anymore, or it's fiberglass
That's
or whatever.
that's the intrigue. And if you watch Mr. Beast on YouTube, the number one YouTuber in the world, he actually destroys a $200,000 car on every episode,
And
or
you can
every other
tell that
episode.
they're not just mock-up models that aren't really drivable with all the faculties.
Well, you have to send it to 20 of your friends and ask them if they think it's a mock-up or CGI.
Okay.
Oh,
See where
it's a pyramid scheme.
Exactly.
now you see where we're going here. Remember the flame wars in the early internet?
Oh yeah,
This is
plane.
Yeah, this is what it was all about. People wanting to engage with others about whatever stupid things are going on. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and that dopamine hit of, like, wait a second, like, I just watched the dumbest show I've ever watched ever.
Right.
And it's a compilation of all the weird phenomenons being sent in around the world, from fish coming out of the sky to ball lightning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I felt like I lost IQ points watching this,
Mhm.
but I had to know. I'm so fascinated with ball lightning, and I very rarely get to see video. And I watched a video of a guy said ball lightning came into his apartment and moved around, and it looked like CGI to me. But I really enjoyed watching, like, hey, is it possible that's actually ball lightning came into an apartment building?
But you could do AI now to generate that video,
Yeah.
Right. It was probably fake, but it captured my imagination and my
Yep.
longing to
Oh, yeah.
know.
You're getting the hit. Yeah.
Yeah, I got my dopamine hit.
It's like
Okay.
watching a magic trick. You say, okay, I know it's engineering, but I'm mystified. I
Mhm.
don't know how you would engineer that to give you that illusion. So you
Okay.
assume that
Exactly.
that's a very good engineering trick, but you can't reverse engineer it.
Now, what
Well,
if yeah. Okay, what if we
oh,
could ignore all the bull and have a conversation about, say, a Sabine Hassenfelder video recent or a Lex Friedman podcast? Say we
yeah,
all listen the same thing, and we had a nice discussion. Yeah, but that's boring, you know?
it's so boring. That's why I found Clubhouse, is that was the tool to have audio discussions about things in the zeitgeist
Yep.
and find those real niche people, which I found, maybe 1,200 niche people that are so, like, I found a group of people, they were up till 2 a.m. last night. I couldn't
Mhm.
sleep,
Yep.
arguing about the verses in the Quran versus the Bible
Anything.
versus,
You could do anything at all.
but
Yeah.
Satanic verses.
they're so passionate about it. They're in there
Yep.
every night arguing scripture. And where else do you find that?
Yeah, well, this is psychology now. We got to see
Yeah, it
psychology
is
analysis.
psychology.
Well, it's
That's
about critical thinking and people just aren't very good at critical thinking. So you have a lot of these critical thinking exercises where people flounder in the exercise of critical thinking.
Yeah.
Flounder and argue.
Yep. And there are places that try to teach it to kids. Like I was in a room in my synagogue and I saw on the wall, yeah, they're trying to teach the kids to critically think about the Gaza and Israel situation and things like that. Yeah.
And a lot of these things are literally mind-boggling. That
Yeah.
no matter how you think about it, and it never comes out in the wash.
Right. And it's like essentially teaching them, okay, where's your morality? What do you really believe is true? And how do you reason about this? Yeah.
How do you sort
Would you
sort
call
out the
that
bullshit?
teaching, or would you call that teaching, or would you call that brainwash?
No, I think it's teaching the kids how to get that sense of internal thinking. It's teaching the critical to consider all sides. It's like the debate, the argument mentality, or just but that's
How to
competition.
immunize,
It's how do you think about how do you process this information
how
that
do
you're
you
getting?
immunize against brainwashing?
Yeah,
And
immunization, very
if you can
important.
learn how to immunize yourself against being brainwashed, that's a
Yep.
win. And that ain't easy to do because it's easy to
Yeah.
be brainwashed and hard to immunize against it.
That is says a brainwash to me. But how do you define brainwash?
By being fooled into something believing something that's baloney, believing something that's untrue.
Okay. So when you play a violence game like Cup Killer or something like that, would you being brainwashed?
I don't play violence games.
I'm saying that if when you're doing that, when the kids are subjected to that kind of game, that kind of material, that kind of video on TikTok, are they
It
being
de
brainwashed?
it depends on the kid and the parents.
if if you want to really know how brainwashing works, there's a show called The Push, and it teaches brainwashing. And the object of the show is to brainwash someone into killing somebody. And so it's a master mind manipulator, Dan Brown, I think his name is, and he shows the steps to brainwashing. Number one, step one is to get people in a room and say, okay, everybody raise their right hand, everybody raise their left hand. And the people that do it are subject to possible brainwashing. The people that don't comply, you get rid of them. And then you do the
Okay.
next layer.
Simon
Okay,
Says.
everybody go down the hall, stand in front of a door, and wait for 5 minutes.
Now my
And
question
the
is,
door never opens.
should that content be censored? Is that dangerous, teaching people how to do
Yes.
that?
You
It's
never
super
raise an army.
dangerous.
How do you raise an army? You've got to convince people that you want to go kill the Vietnamese
Yeah.
peasants or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying there's actual layers and steps to brainwashing, and there's actual schools that teach brainwashing.
Well, Trump is very good at brainwashing. He brainwashes his base, whoever they are, 20%.
That's another perspective of brainwashing. So all the kids are born with a white piece of paper, right? So it's like a 2-year-old kid, you kill someone in front of them, whether it's real killing or not really kill, but pull a trigger in front of the 2-year-old, you clap your hand and reward them with ice cream or whatever, and it's slowly growing up and
Conditioning, right?
Yeah, conditioning, brainwashing, they're all the same thing. Well, my point is that all the little things that we talk about, all the little posting and like smashing the car, what have you, all those are brainwashing because you're making things acceptable, making this like, because of this now, it was not an acceptable behavior and now it become acceptable behavior.
It's a systems theory problem. You could see the mapping of these influences lead to this, and these other influences lead to this. And if you want to think about Trump, look at Cambridge Analytica, what was done there, how they were able to tune into the segments of the population with the right messages.
Yeah. The last move of the game, the kid shoots the guy who invented the game. So
oh my.
You always have to think all the way to what's the end game that ruins the whole concept.
Well, we're training
it's
our
the whole point of
AIs.
a pyramid scheme. The pyramid eventually collapses. The house eventually collapses.
Yeah, so we're going to train our AIs in all these deceptive tactics, and they'll use it against us.
And then it'll eventually collapse.
Who knows?
It kills us off. Then what's the point of AI if there's no humans to?
So from the AI perspective, I still have to keep reminding myself. I sometimes forget AI is a tool. So I just want to give you example on last week. I have a situation where there's multiple, I would say about 20, 30 different interaction email that I go with, and I pay $30 a month for the Copilot for
Mhm.
Microsoft. Is supposed to
Right.
take all my emails and read everything, and then I tell them, okay, now what do I do? It's like, and you know what? The answer came back is crap.
Yeah,
Come to
so
the
they're
dark side, Sam.
so
Sammy?
Come to the it's a new AI. It's called Apple Intelligence. You can come over to our side of the,
No,
the
that's the same
atmosphere.
thing. It's the same thing. So Apple AI and the Copilot is the same thing.
No, it's not.
Copilot, no, okay, listen. Copilot, I'm paying $30 a month. I'm to sign up for a whole year, $360 for that privilege is to use all my email content, everything in my OneDrive, everything that in my private data, solve the problem with the data I have. It's just Apple AI. That's what Apple AI is doing, is using everything I have on my iPhone before if I'm
Right, but
asking
here's a
a
question.
question, if I use my general question, for example, what's the weather today? Then it will go outside the Apple AI. The same thing as a Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, the one
So
that I
quick
pay for.
quick question. Where does Microsoft store all of your photos?
Because I give you permission to read all my photos and I give permission to read all my 365 content.
Right, but
they
it
already
goes
have
back
it.
to it goes back to when they're reading your photos, can they read your photos as good as Google or as good as Apple?
Well,
Who
that's a
can read
different
the
question.
photos better?
There's a different question. So I'm not looking for text only email content is the one I focus on because I deal with a lot of facts all day long, and I'm trying to keep. See. I'm always look for when I have a problem. I have a blind spot. So I was like, I want the co-pilot to find out what my blind spot is to help me to take the complex problem and simplify it
But
for me.
I guess my point is that Google and Apple both have smartphones,
Yeah.
and a lot of the communication is happening on messengers on both of those platforms. So Microsoft is missing a big piece of that puzzle to get it right.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't really care because all the facts that the co-pilot need to solve help my problem was reading all my, let's say about 50 different email going back and forth between me and the customer with a complex situation,
Right,
right?
but it needs to also look at the GPS of where the people were when they sent the message and what were the in between
That's
context of
irrelevant.
the
I don't
text.
care about information. All I care is about the facts that you return the product or you what
No,
happened
I
when
know.
Is
yeah.
it a
I'm
black box? Can you really know that they're following what they say in their user agreement? We don't know. They could be hoovering it all up and selling it to advertisers for all you know.
No, all I know
I'm
is that the response that Copilot gave me was
Uh-huh.
missing out so much information, sort of like it's
Yeah,
like
it's what was it trained on? Yeah.
yeah,
yeah. I'm just saying that Microsoft missed the boat of the smartphone.
I
Mhm.
agree. I
They,
totally agree.
yeah, they
So
were
so I'm
late.
saying the amount of information, at least for me, I don't know many people. I personally don't use email, but I text.
Yeah,
And so I text with a platform that was written by Apple, which is Apple Messenger.
right.
And so all of that contextual information mixed with my emails will give me some smart email data.
Right. So from my perspective, I stay, so I'm texting with someone, I'm texting with someone. I WhatsApp with someone, I will stay WhatsApp with someone. If I do WeChat with someone, I will WeChat with someone and so on and so forth. Email is mean I stay in the same platform with that particular person. I don't like mix 5 different ways to I mean I do Skype, I do Microsoft Team,
Yeah.
all
So
that stuff. I stay
it
in
probably is
Can you
just
pull I was going to say, can you pull your JSON data from those like WhatsApp and pull it from WeChat and pull that
yeah,
information into Microsoft?
yeah, of course.
Okay, we'll pull all that data in and then put it with the emails and maybe it will get smarter.
You cannot tell Copilot to go read your WhatsApp data until you put in the Microsoft Word format so that they can
That's what
read.
I'm saying. You have to manually download every WhatsApp conversation.
That's what I'm saying. So, but Mike, remember the operating system is in Microsoft Windows 11, right? The WhatsApp
Yeah.
is in the Microsoft domain of the
Right,
control.
but is the API connected to Copilot from WhatsApp?
No, it's not.
Because that's Facebook.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying is I'm in the apple garden because I did something that was smart in 2014. I got my whole family into the apple garden.
Right.
And then when I met Cusella, her family's in the apple garden. So our two families are connected. So between that ecosystem, I can know at least enough about our two nuclear families.
Yeah, the photo sharing. Yeah, I get my grandniece's photos, all the thousands of photos. Yep.
Yeah, and I'd love to. I'm still trying to get the JSON data from Facebook of everything I've ever posted to Facebook and all my connections of 5,000 people. Every conversation that ever happened at GCC, I would like to pull from Facebook.
Yeah, probably an API or something.
Yeah, one day I'm going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so the tool is insufficient. The tools is less than optimized, whatever you call it. I cannot count on it. No, no way.
See, you're training their tool basically.
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
And they
I mean,
want
the
your
feedback
feedback.
from the tool,
Yeah.
the feedback
Okay.
from the tool, not even cutting it.
Yeah. So where do you tell them that, hey, this is a piece of crap? Where do you post that?
Now, what basically is, I would say right now is that this is what I say about 20% of the data you can allow you to see about 20. If they see about 20%, it's useful about 20% of the time is the best way I could say it. 20% of the time is useful. That's it.
Yeah. So
Give me,
we need a mental model of what it's doing.
yeah,
Right. Yeah. So we think, okay, it's just looking at our text, trying to match it to other texts in its corpus. And we could see, okay, it's a bad result. So
Yeah.
maybe the corpus is bad, or maybe there's a better data set we need. Yeah. So it's really consumer driven now.
Yeah.
Which AI do you need?
So
Why
this is
need?
what I say is like you have the marketing version where the
Mhm.
video is telling you what you can do. That's what the actual version and what the platform you set up, the complexity of it to get the real feedback of the real
Yeah, the
data.
marketing could just be a minimum viable product. That's my theory there.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys want to see something cool, the Texas Gigafactory for the Tesla Corporation just put in 3 giant fans that are bigger than 4 houses for one
Wow.
fan.
Wow.
And they're making a large data center inside of that building. And it's the largest building ever
Hmm.
built in the world.
Wow.
So it's
So is it the same power requirements as the ENIAC back in the day?
I am so curious to see how they're going to power all of this because
Yeah,
the solar panels at the top of the building are not going to work. I
right.
don't know where they're going to get the power, but they did. We just voted as a Tesla shareholder. I voted to move the corporation to Texas so that they could use the Texas power grid because it's
Sure.
separate from the rest of the US grid.
Sounds
So
good. Okay.
see if they can power it.
Texas is going to melt from all the heat from all the fossil fuel that they're burning to generate all that electricity.
I don't know what's going to happen in Texas.
It's going to be bad when the shit hits the fan. It's going to be when the shit hits that big fan.
Yeah,
It's going to be a
that's a
mess.
huge. There's 3 fans.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's to me. I'm watching this whole world of like large compute and real world data, and to me, it's almost worse than the Bitcoin world of energy.
Yeah, boil the ocean.
Sabine
Yeah,
Hasselfelder has a video about how much electricity is being used to make Bitcoin, and where are we going to generate the electricity?
I
And
mean,
well,
just
I think
chat
that's the limiting
GPT.
factor that they're not really considering.
Yeah, what is the
well, they
real
just
cost? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say politically, I found it fascinating that Silicon Valley people just pulled Donald Trump into their sphere and did a big fundraiser for him. And they're saying, all right, you're our president if you get us our electricity that we need to move forward with Silicon
Aha,
Valley.
there you go.
So that's what they're working on with the Trump. If Trump becomes the next president, that administration.
They have to go to Iceland or someplace where they can get electricity without having to burn fossil fuels.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know
But
what's going to happen.
look at other countries like Sweden, where the cost of electricity skyrocketed during the winter.
Yeah.
You-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bitcoin mining is going to very remote places where you've got low cost electricity, far from the cities, far from
Mhm.
populated areas.
Yeah, I can see a fictional world where people are running around trying to charge up their electronic devices, and the price of electricity skyrockets,
Yeah.
like the way gasoline did, and they can't afford to get on the internet or get on their cell phone because they can't even afford. It's like $100 for one charge of a cell phone.
Or your car is at a rest stop in New Jersey and you have to charge your car, but the price is too expensive right now. So you're going to sleep in your car or in your camping.
Yeah, I think this new electric world is going to be riddled with problems.
Yep.
The engineering problems are, well, I won't say insurmountable, but they're certainly challenging.
Actually, there are utility companies who did studies on this and are trying to blow the whistle. Hey, our grid won't support all this growth.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, they won't. It was Elon Musk. I think it was last year. He was at a electric conference trying to
Right.
get these people to really build out the infrastructure, because the world that they want to build is more energy than we've ever had on this planet.
And we're
It's
not going to
ridiculous.
Dyson spheres to get the energy.
Yeah, I just put the company name that did that study. It's called PJM Interconnect.
Oh,
Hmm.
cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I follow that stuff a lot because I'm trying to understand how are we going to get to. I'm into the electric revolution,
Hmm.
but if we don't have the nuclear power plants to build this electric revolution, it's never going to happen.
Yeah. See what this company does.
If we
Yeah,
can
they
make
monitor.
hydrogen fusion work, then maybe we can get
Sure.
nuclear power from hydrogen. We haven't solved that problem. Engineering
No, we haven't.
solved it.
Well, the sun does it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's a big S.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Right. Okay. What that company does is they monitor the flow between power companies and they have the
Mhm.
data of peak usage and they regulate the flow. Yeah, so they are on top of all that data and they see
Yeah.
already, yeah, we can't
Well,
handle a hot summer day. Yeah.
yeah, the microgrid, micro hubs, it's Texas and California, Arizona. There's a lot of new companies coming up, new power companies that are trying to create these microgrids.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, good
to
idea.
me, that's going to reallocate communities into different structures that we've never had before, where these gated communities, if they're
Hmm.
on a microgrid, they'll have power.
Right.
But I can see, like, if you look from a satellite 100 years from now, you'll see blackout areas
Right.
and then super bright areas where, you see what I'm saying.
The people with the money get the
Yep.
lights. Yeah.
And the poor people are in the dark running around with candles. I don't know what's going to happen. We're going to go back
See
to the Stone Age.
What do you got?
the
Hmm.
virtual power plant, right? You see?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
Energy. Yeah.
so I'm part of the virtual power plant. So it's connected to how many houses are here? 6,685 houses.
So like people who sell their solar back to the grid. Is that
Yeah.
what it is? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got 3 batteries, so I
Okay.
got plenty of power to sell whenever they need it. So
Mhm. Yep.
that's a micro cell.
Hmm. Yeah, it's the storage of all that power with these batteries that need the lithium. And yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how long the battery will last, but I hope it will
Mhm.
last me 20, 30 years. So far, my 12-year-old Tesla Model S lost about, I would say, less than 20% of the battery.
Less
After
How
than
many
20.
years?
12 years.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So it's doing good.
And you fill it up to 80%?
Yep, all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
we had
the new battery, you can charge it up to 100% now. The new battery, the new one, the Model 3. Did you get
oh wow, the Highlander.
Yeah. No, the 2024 Model 3 Tesla Model 3 that just being released right now, they can be charged to 100% battery power. I forgot what's the name of the battery. It's a different battery now.
Amazing. Yeah, I started doing solar on lead acid batteries
Mm.
off the grid. And then we went to AGM batteries and now lithium batteries.
Lithium is the only way to go. Something solid state is. I was told that there's a solid state car now that can go up to 1,400 miles.
Oh wow. Yeah, I was just researching a quantum dot technology in solar panels.
Amazing.
So
Anyway, it's 10 o'clock.
Yep. Thank you all.
Okay, have fun.
This is
cheers.
great. Okay. Have a good,
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank
good
you,
rest
Eric.
of the weekend.
Thank you, Barry. See you later, Sam.
All right.
Bye.
Stop the recording.